Without doubts, I think it's by far the best league in the world.
How dare you score like that in the Premier League? Mission accomplished in the Premier League. The American.
Oh yeah, let's do our studs of the week this week. Bickler, we will start with you. Name us your stud of the week.
Ivan Toney, I thought he was a colossus on the pitch, and I think he's a known goal scorer. I think he's got one of the best penalty run-ups in all the game, and he's just absolutely lethal from the spot. But I think one of the things that gets overlooked is his distribution. He hit a couple of long balls over the top and from wide positions that were just absolute beauts. I thought he ran the game. It has a hat trick inside like 60 minutes, and then I just thought he got everybody else involved. I thought he absolutely dominated that one.
Yeah, I mean that the free kick was
I was gonna say.
and his third goal, how calm he took that, and that touch on the ball on the last shot. A lot of people would try to slam that through and stuff, but he was so calm. That was just a beautiful goal. That's the kind of goal that after you get scored down, that's like a rage quit kind of goal, probably in FIFA. Who is your stud of the week there, Gally?
I'm gonna go with Marcus Rashford. The kid's come under a ton of scrutiny the last couple of years. He's almost looked like he lost his way with football, like fell out of love with football. I thought when the rumors were up that he might be off to PSG or even Barcelona, like he was a kid who could probably use with a new set of scenery. Just everything in his life seemed to be United. And I thought the train wreck that was United was wearing him down. And now I think if there is a resurgence there with some young players and a young coach, he might be a person that benefits. But both goals, well taken. The assist on the opener. I think that's the bigger part to me. Isn't that he scored the goals, because you can score goals and not make great plays. Rashford had opportunities to blow both of his goals and made sure that he didn't. And he took them calmly and he took them well in a really pressure situation in a match that they really needed to win. So for me, the stud of the week was Marcus Rashford, as hard as it is to hold my nose while saying it.
Yeah, my stud of the week is McAllister from Brighton. I mean, I've been kind of raving about Brighton and how they play for a while now. And this dude, I mean, he should have had a hat trick. He had like a beautiful goal that was chalked up with VAR, which we will get to VAR later on the show, and what a dud that is for everybody. But aside from that, I mean, he finishes a beautiful goal and he helps control that midfield. I mean, that team, when you look at that midfield, obviously with the Caicedo guy next to him and Gross, I mean, the five they play in front of that three from A to Z over there is a very strong lineup. And if they don't have any injuries, I think Brighton could surprise everyone and play for definitely a European spot, but maybe even higher. I just really like how they're playing so far. But McAllister is definitely my stud of the week this week. Dud of the week this week is an odd one. We usually go around and give our separate duds, but I think when we were talking in the pre-production fist fight, we kind of decided that pretty much we all have VAR and the refereeing in the Premier League as our dud, because every week there's one or two calls, but it felt like there was an abundance this week of game-changing calls and result affecting calls, especially made by VAR, that makes you scratch your head. I don't know where to begin, but Bickler, I mean, there are a lot of calls. We can go call by call, I guess, but what do you make of the state of VAR overall, and how is this, or when is this going to get fixed for the league that's like the top league in the world? But
and I just don't get it, because I mean, it seems to work everywhere else. I mean, I just watched a Little League World Series in the United States where they pulled it off. Like, it just doesn't make with 12-year-olds, and it was like they figured it out. These guys don't even get paid to do it. I don't understand it. I mean, it's like the fraternity of bros collectively got together this week and decided that they weren't getting enough attention. So, like, classic middle child syndrome, they came out and made it about them this week. I don't know what happened. It was like, I think if any other week, I think there was literally 6 decisions that we could literally talk about as headline decisions that happened. If any other given week, each one of those would be topics in and of themselves. It was so bad. And I do not understand how we're at a point. And like the PGMLO just releases a comment today about how the amount of abuse referees are getting is hurting how many people they have coming forward and wanting to be referees now. I'm like, no, I think you have that backwards. I think you guys don't have a quality. They don't have quality training. They don't have quality talent. And then they're getting the just dessert. They're getting the abuse that they deserve, because I do not understand how anyone can be called over to a monitor and make decisions like what happened at Newcastle Crystal Palace, like what happened in West Ham Chelsea, like what happened in the City match with the offside flag, which we've seen for 3 years now, then wait 2.5 minutes to raise a flag. And then in this play, they flag it instantly in a call that essentially takes 2 points, or it takes 1 point and gives it to a team that's a title favorite, and takes it off another. I don't understand it. And I don't understand at what point this becomes critical mass, because it was so bad this week.
It was over the top. I mean, we probably could pick a decision every week and make a segment out of it that was like the worst call of the week or something like that. And it would not be too difficult, but it just felt like there was an abundance this week. And I think the biggest thing to me, and I don't know what you think, Gally, is because, Bickler has all these questions and there are no answers for it, in terms of like, how does that, because we can't hear the communication, because we don't know the explanations, why some calls are being changed or what is being discussed. To me, at least, that's like the biggest ordeal. Tell me why you changed the call, or tell me why you did not go, like, after you're watching it, you're saying this is the right call. Explain it to me, because maybe we don't know the rules.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is something to that, and I think they've talked about that becoming part of the scenario where I think next year they're going to trial it, where we're going to be able to hear the communication on the broadcast, but that still doesn't help the people in the stadium, which is the awkward silence and uncomfortableness that is VAR now. But to go to a specific, like, I'd like to focus. I mean, I think there's a whole discussion around the Brighton disallowed goal, the wonder strike, because for the first time ever, a ref was asked to come to the monitor to basically adjudge an offside decision, which is asinine in itself, because the offsides is not open to debate, right? You either are offsides or you aren't. He was offsides, but then they needed to ask the match official to come watch to decide whether or not the bicycle kick attempted or changed the defensive play. And let's be honest, it didn't do anything. If you're not going to call a foul on the bicycle kick, then the wonder strike has to count. And the fact that it took away a goal like that is just everything that VAR is not supposed to be. But while we're talking about chalked off goals, I feel for Newcastle. And I think it was an egregious, terrible call. And Newcastle deserved the points, and Eddie Howe should be really, really upset, because nobody's defended better, which is crazy in itself to say. No one in the Premier League has defended better over 6 matches than Newcastle. They deserve almost max points in every single match that they've played this season. And for them to lose on basically a Crystal Palace player pushing Joe Willock into the keeper, and it's still not being enough contact to be a foul, to then chalk off a goal is ridiculous. But that still wasn't even nearly as bad as the call against Jared Bowen. My man, Jared Bowen, in the West Ham.
So bad.
Chelsea
so
play.
bad.
Do I think Bowen leaves a little bit on Mendy? I think he does. Do I think he did it intentionally? I don't. And the fact that that replay was watched over and over in slow motion and not in real time is just crazy, because the moment you see that in slow motion, it looks like a foul. But if you see that in real time, you know that is just Mendy flopping around because he's made a complete hash of everything. That's a goal all day long. Like, I've been screaming for Max Cornet to get his time on the pitch with West Ham. He gets his time. He should have scored the equalizer earlier, and then he should have got himself a winner. Instead, he just got himself an equalizer. And for them to take that away and bail Chelsea out, another club that is going for top levels and top honors, while another team is wallowing down in the relegation zone, it's absolutely abysmal. And the worst part is, it always miraculously seems to help the bigger clubs. And I hate calling it out that way, but it always does.
I honestly think, even in like slow motion, that doesn't look like a foul to me.
Yeah, it didn't look like a foul to me. And there's nothing. Look, if you're a goalkeeper and you go down to get that shot, there's going to be contact. You know that. Like, there's nothing that he could have done. There's absolutely nothing he could have done. He didn't follow through. He didn't step on him. Is there contact? Yeah, but that's what happens when
if
a
he
goal
doesn't
goes
jump.
down.
You know, if he does not jump, as we get like the lighting going here, if he does not jump, he doesn't have to, mind you. He almost tries to avoid it. I mean, if he doesn't jump, basically he gets the ball, he knocks out Bowen, right? And the play should continue because it's not a foul. He doesn't have to disappear just because Mendy's diving over there.
No, and Mendy knew that he wasn't getting to that next ball.
Correct.
That's the bottom line. And like, I just don't like, I don't know how you can be ignorant enough to not understand that situation, both from a gamesmanship standpoint and from a football standpoint, which makes me wonder seriously how much experience these guys have at actually playing the game and understanding the match in itself. And that's the scary thing.
I know that's been like a conversation of like, involving more ex-players. I mean, do you guys really think, even if you have not played, and I realize, as people who played, a lot of stuff is a lot easier because you can relate to it. You've been there, done that. Either, as a defender, I've been on one end or I know how the other end works. I understand all that. But, these guys have been in the game for years. It should not still take a player to say, no, man, that's how we roll. I mean, seriously, you would think by now, Gally, they've kind of seen it all.
You would hope, and I gosh knows it doesn't need to take any longer because if anything, it takes too long as it is now. There's too often, there's just too much of a time waste, in my opinion, in this entire ordeal. And the reason I mention it like that is I do think there might be something to having, whether it be a match official and an ex-player or like a group of people looking at these things so that it's not just one person saying, I think you should go take a look at this in the monitor. There were a few instances that I did appreciate how they utilized VAR. There were a couple times where they asked the match official to go take a look at his own penalties decisions. I think one time the guy reversed his decision and one time he upheld it. I like that because at least then it's asking the ref to take a look at his own decision and decide with the extra time and a couple extra views of whether or not the call stands. I just don't understand the difference between a goal being chalked off and we want you to go look at this goal and have it chalked off. Like, I think like there should be more of a definitive. I almost feel like if you feel that it was a big enough mistake, that it was wrong on the pitch, then call that and just change the call. And I know that goes against the whole ref making his own call, but it's taking up too much time. And ultimately, by asking the official to go to the monitor, you're putting that match official in one of two positions. He either agrees with you that there was a mistake in his actions, and by seeing it, he changes his call, or he doubles down with more of that, like Mike Dean, and I know all I saw this, that's a red card. Like, it doesn't matter that I saw no contact. It's still a red card. I called it on the field. Either way, I think their arrogance and there's probably too much of their bravado that gets called into this, both backing up their fellow brethren and them backing up the call they made on the field. And I just feel like there's just too much of that. It's not, Paul made a comment earlier. They want it to all be about them, like the middle child. And I think it's a really good analogy. This feels an awful lot.
Middle child bashing? What's going on here, man?
It's not my fault. You were born. It's not my fault. You were born, one.
Trying to get Kramer to phone in. That's all. I mean, I think this goes back to the previous conversation, right? Like, we don't know what the conversations are. I think there's a huge difference between somebody in your ear going, you should probably go take a look at that to monitor, or somebody saying, hey, this is a tight one. Would you like to take another look? You know what I mean? I think there's a huge difference because I think we were talking about the pressure that it puts on a ref when you ask him to go look at the monitor. You're almost implying that they made the incorrect decision. Right. And I think there's a fundamental breakdown between the principles behind VAR and the application, because let's look at the first goal that was chalked off in the Arsenal match. Sort of Tierney lets that play go and then calls it back for the foul on Eriksen. Like watch that play. Tierney's right there. He sees the entire play. He opts not to call the foul. And then the goal happens and we go to VAR. It's like, why are we changing the way that we call the game because of VAR?
I agree.
If it's a foul, it's a fucking foul. Like, how many times, like, do we have to, like, why are we waiting to see if a goal happens before we call it back? Like, why not give the opportunity to the other team? If there's a foul, it goes the other way. Like, we're actually impacting the flow and actual play of game by not making decisions and allowing VAR to do it for you. Like, and it's just, should there be a group of people on these like we see in the NFL? Maybe, but at the same time, it's like, dude, like, how are we going through 2 layers of stupid? Like, there's some guy in the VAR booth who's making, like, Lee Mason makes a bad call and has him to the monitor, and then the other guy comes over to the monitor, doubles down, and makes a bad call. Like, it's like we went through 2 layers and they still got it wrong. Like, I almost feel for, like, the governing body, because, like, you're adding these layers to get it right, and then you're just basically almost making yourself more vulnerable when these, like, knuckleheads can't get it right between multiple layers and multiple people looking at it. It's ridiculous.
I think there's like 2 things there. I think the layers should be different. So at least it should be different stupids doing it. Because I think when you have a guy, it goes back to kind of these guys covering for themselves. I think it should be, it doesn't necessarily have to be a group like the NFL or whatever, but it should be somebody independent looking at it, who's not going to be reffing a game next week and have the other guy on the pitch being his VAR and all that kind of stuff. So I think that will kind of eliminate some of that, I scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of thing. I mean, I agree with what you're saying as opposed to what, like, Gally's saying when it comes to the, watching it, because I can see that where it says, like, I don't know, man, this could be a foul. You might want to double check and, be sure, because we want it to be sure. That's the whole point of the freaking VAR. We want to be 100% sure. So if the guy on the VAR says, this can go either way, I mean, I don't know. You saw what you saw, but I don't know if you want to take a look at this, because, I don't know, he sticks his foot out a little bit higher than, it looks. Whatever. I'm okay with that for them to go and look at it, but I want to hear that conversation. And for them to kind of acknowledge that, and this is not like rocket science, they already do it in rugby and stuff, and they're already talking to each other. What, like, somebody can't press the record button for a year that they're like, you know what, we'll start recording next year? Because are they going to spend this entire year saying, hey, make sure you don't say stupid shit like this next year because it's going to be recording it? That, to me, that's what it sounds like. They're almost saying, well, we don't want anybody hearing this shit now. Why don't we clean up our act, and next year they can start listening it? That's what I find frustrating.
Well, I mean, you see what happens when these, like, emails come out from, like, NFL and other, like, major league organizations, like, backwards communication. It always leads to someone being blackballed, fired, and someone, like, never having a job again, because these people aren't smart enough, even when they know they're being recorded, to not say stupid shit. So, I mean, but the good news is for all of us is it's all going to get fixed, because Howard Webb is coming back to fix it all.
Yeah.
I mean, Howard Webb is now in charge. Now, to be fair to Howard Webb, the MLS paid him a ton of money to come over here. And for those of you that follow football outside of Europe, there's a league in America called Major League Soccer. Soccer is the S.
Do tell, Gally, do tell.
And that league, let me tell you, this is like need to know. It's my rainbow. But the MLS actually last year was rated like the second most efficient league for getting VAR decisions right. No, because they do it different, actually. The VAR in the MLS is a little bit different. Like, there's certain criterion that has to be adjudged by the VAR, and it will never be go over to the monitor. And then there's certain things where they look at the monitor. And they're actually, I think, doing it better on offsides. They're doing it quicker. And Howard Webb played a big role in that. So I'm hoping, actually, he gets to bring some of that back to the Premier League. And I'm hoping his second thing that he does is get rid of Lee Mason and Mike Dean, because they are both 100% VAR officials. And I think that's another problem. As much as some people say you need specialized people in VAR, I think that's the opposite. I think you need referees who are reffing the game at full speed, understanding the differences, the nuances, the shithousery, the trickeration that's happening on the pitch today. They need to be the ones inside Stockley Park reviewing the monitors and talking to the matchday officials. not retired referees who are still looking to collect a paycheck on the weekend and just get fatter and fatter and fatter. And in Lee Mason's case, not have to deal with, Jose Mourinho or fucking Nuno on the sidelines calling them a cheat and a fraud.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, it's more like extending their career. They're like, wait, I don't even have to run. I can do this from a TV. Sign me up. More checks incoming.
It feels like when you put somebody on paid leave. like
pretty much it is. And I
suspended with pay.
Yeah, it's basically that creepy guy. It's that creepy guy that talks to every young female at the Christmas party, and you're like, dude, listen, we're gonna let you work from home. We're gonna keep paying you. We don't want you to respond to emails. You're not invited to the Christmas party and the picnic. You're also not allowed to come to that unless you stay on the other side of the fence.
Like, this sounds like somebody Gally is actually working with, by the way. So we're gonna have to get the name after we stop recording over.
His name is not Chris.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, we could have probably made this some of these goals dud of the week overall, but we felt like this was 1 week where they kind of kept coming. Every game you watch, you were like, here's another one. DJ Kelly over here. So well, that is our dud of the week, VAR, and I hate to say this might not be the last week we make it our dud. Let's hope so, but let's be realist, and it might happen again. But that's the dud of the week. Our match of the week this week was United against Arsenal. It was actually also our first live watch along. We even had my freaking black sheep of the family brother, who's a United fan, on, which actually was interesting to get some perspective of a more like an objective and a grounded United fan giving their take. But I mean, it's a huge win for them. I don't know if you could literally say they were the better team that day, Gally, but it is a big win after beating Liverpool at home. It's another huge win. And I think especially Ten Hag, who's trying to make some changes. I think Liverpool has kind of helped that cause with losing that game because, benching Maguire and Ronaldo was a big move. And because he's winning, they're not being questioned as much.
Yeah, I mean, they played soundly defensively. They conceded 1 and 3 since making the move and taking Maguire out of the starting lineup. Varane and Martinez look good. Sitting Ronaldo has worked because Ronaldo has been engaged. I'll give Ronaldo credit. He was extremely excited and happy as Anthony scored the opener.
That was a mask, but go ahead.
The big money signing. I was shocked, right? He was smiling and like clapping and like actually looked engaged.
Like, is the camera on?
But I it's easy to poke fun at him, and it was easy for years, but at the same time, I think you have to recognize it looks so far like they had themselves quite a good window, and I think we all talked about it starting with the coach. Coach seems like he's getting through to some players. They're a long way from competing, but they made 3 or 4 signings, and they look a much, much better side at competing at a higher level with the top half of this side. And I was really impressed with the young left back, the Malaysia kid. I thought he played really well against us. I think he's played well against Southampton and played well against Arsenal. He's gone up against Mo and Saka in 2 of his first 3 starts in the Premier League, and I'd argue he won both battles. So that's a pretty good job by a young kid. And you add that in with the fact that Eriksen might be the signing of the year on a free so far in the Premier League. He's doing everything good that United is doing is running through Eriksen. And that is before you even talk about Sancho and Rashford looking like the actual young English stars that they are. So for me, it was all good for United, honestly.
Yeah, see, I mean, what do you think, Bickler, in terms of like the run on play? I still thought when you look on the field, Arsenal was the better team in terms of playing the game. But the problem with playing against United is they have a lot of weapons that can hit you on the counter. And that's what happened to Arsenal. If anything, we kind of saw Arsenal not being able to cope with that very well. Because when you have people like Eriksen and Fernandes who can distribute the ball well, you have people like Sancho and Rashford who can run onto them, and now Anthony, it kind of makes it tricky to defend the counters, and Arsenal could just not cope with that. And I think the worst thing that happened almost was them getting the draw, like the tie, because it felt like Arsenal got the feeling that they could win, and the more they went at it, opened it up for a counter for United.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that this match really changed my opinion of either team, if I'm perfectly honest. I think it's a huge win for United. I think it's great 3 points. I think they look a lot better defensively since they've made the changes. I'm with Gally. I think this Malaysia kid looks like an absolute stud for them. I think that he looks like a legit young talent. But yeah, so Manchester United are at their most dangerous on the counter. We've known this for a long time, right? I mean, to me, this looked like vintage United the year that they made second place, right?
Yeah,
and what has changed? What has changed? They finished their chances on the counter. They plugged Bruno Fernandes in centrally and let the play run through him. And I think that we've always said that, at least I have. I've always said their identity, as long as he's there, is going to be through Bruno Fernandes. He's going to be the guy that dictates. He's the conductor from that midfield. And I think Eriksen behind him helps him, give him some more freedom. But I think the difference between these two teams on that day was just who was the more clinical side. You got Rashford in positions times, and he finished chances. And I think that was the difference. I don't think we've seen this before. I'm not convinced Rashford has it in him to be that consistent. That's my big knock on him. He's wildly inconsistent. I think confidence certainly helps him. So if he can ride the swing of confidence and get enough momentum behind him, maybe that changes. But I don't think he's somebody that you can rely on consistently to put chances away. And I think that was the big difference, is that he was consistent on the day. But if United continue to improve defensively, and if they're able to continue to hit teams on the counter, they're going to win matches like this. And these are matches that Arsenal's going to drop points in, because that's where they struggle. Yep. So I don't really think this changed my opinion of either team. I think it was lightning in a bottle for United, and hat tip to them. They played well defensively and they finished chances.
And I think Arsenal almost like went back to the Arsenal of like 3-4 years ago at times, where like trying to get the perfect shots, like in the box, moving it. Somebody tried to take a shot, like trying to be having a wide open shot, and almost like wasted a lot of chances when they had numbers even. So it was kind of odd to see that. But yeah, I mean, I agree that the clinical team won. I mean, I think, when you look at the run on play, you did not see that coming, but you got to always be ready for that United counterattack. So, I mean, the biggest thing against both these teams are going to be the fact that they are going to be playing on Thursdays starting now. Gally, we'll start with you. Who do you think that affects the most?
I think it affects Arsenal more, because I think Arsenal is further along in their project and may have maybe the better starting 11, I think that United still has a deeper squad of professionals available to them, even youth players to bring in and play. I think they have a deeper side. I think when you have Ronaldo sitting on your bench and Harry Maguire and Lindelof, and I just think you still have Donny van de Beek. You have a second team, Fred. You have Casemiro not even starting yet for them. Like, I think United will be okay in balancing the two. And I think for Arsenal, they have a little bit of the West Ham in them, is that he likes to act like he rotates, but he really doesn't rotate. And I think he wants to win every match because he's maniacal to the point, like he has that like Pep mentality that he has to try to go for everything. And I don't know that they're deep enough yet, and he may tire them out. And I just think that was a little bit. And, in this match, for me, one of the things I didn't mention last time, I think Odegaard was missing. Like, he was a pedestrian in this match against United, and he's been maybe their best player in every other match this year. And I think that you realize that if they don't have someone pulling the strings in the midfield, there's still not enough happening between Saka and Jesus for them to actually create. Martinelli, they have amazing front three, but if Odegaard's not on it, I think Arsenal is going to struggle to create all year long, and that could probably keep biting them as they move forward.
Yeah, my fantasy team wasn't too happy about Odegaard as well, because that was kind of a shocker. Then again, his assist got kind of taken off that goal when they got overturned. How about you, Bickler? Who do you think affects it more? Obviously, United does.
Well, first, let me become. I like Odegaard. I think you guys are right. I think the main difference in this one is they didn't control possession, and I think Odegaard is very much like De Bruyne, where he's got to have the ball. Like they've got to have possession for him to be impactful. he's not a player that will assert himself in a game where you're relying on him to break up play and dictate space. He's just not that player. I agree with Gally. I think this favors United because of the roster. I actually like Arsenal's attacking depth. I hate their defending depth. They've got nothing on the back line on either side, on either wide or centrally in terms of defending. And even in the midfield, they're pretty light. So I think, Arteta's going to do the thing where he rotates probably Smith Rowe in spots and Ketia, who I really like. But yeah, they're going to have some issues, especially if they have injuries on the defensive side where they're going to be in real trouble. Whereas United have stockpiled a bunch of overpaid professionals, and at least you have them as available.
And that's the thing. I mean, you got to figure you're going to see Ronaldo out there. Like you're saying, you're going to see Maguire out there. I mean, we were talking about this during the watch along, and I'm kind of like asking my brother about this. I mean, I feel like results in the Europa will play an important role in Ten Hag, because while they have this winning run, a lot of the doubt gets put aside. But a couple of poor results, you got to figure that's going to come right back out, and the confidence they're riding can get kind of like knocked out a lot easier. Whereas you feel like Arsenal has been kind of building it slowly and kind of like has established that, I guess, benefit of the doubt.
United needs to go win this tournament, is the truth. Manchester United playing in the Europa League, they should feel like they can win it, even with teams parachuting down from the Champions League. And it might be United's best opportunity to make next year's Champions League. People forget, when they made the move with Jose and finished second that year that Paul mentions, right? It was also United winning the Europa League the year before that qualified them for the Champions League. Like their last Champions League qualification, their first when they got back in was the year that we had 5 from the EPL, because they won the Europa League. And it's still probably their best chance. I'm not sure United has enough to finish in the top 4 of the Premier League. I've seen too much. I know we're good. I know City's good. I've seen a lot from Arsenal, and I've seen too much from Spurs to think that those teams aren't better than United, let alone Chelsea. So United's best chance is probably putting their eggs into the Europa League basket. And you make a good point, Timucin. Maybe it's part of the reason about sitting Ronaldo in the league is Ronaldo doesn't allow you to press and beat English teams the way that they need to with their talent. But Ronaldo can still go out and score 5 in Azerbaijan or wherever the fuck they're playing on Thursday night, right? And maybe that is what they're going to do. They can actually field 2 different 11s and an 11 that is good enough to still compete in the Europa League. If that team's not in the quarterfinals or better, they had a absolute train wreck of a campaign.
And everyone who's playing FIFA career mode knows how important it is to have 2 11s. You can just switch between.
I'll take your word for that. I don't do the career mode, but
oh, okay. I just beat up on 9-year-olds in Brazil, like online.
I think you were the one actually playing with Brazil. But that's a different story. Let's not open that can.
I also count as a 9-year-old. So yes, that was me.
So United, Arsenal, who finishes above the other when the season is over, Bickler? From what you've seen so far.
I still like Arsenal in the long haul.
Do you put him in the top 4?
Do I put him in the top 4?
Having seen kind of like Chelsea not really light up the world either. And
yeah, but I mean, they're another one. They've got such a deep squad. If they can figure that out, they can roll it into at least the 4th spot, Do they finish top 4? Let me go. No, I think they finished 5th. I want to say they'll finish 4th. I just don't think they've got enough there. I don't think they're deep enough. I want them to. I think
I have these guys as 5th and 6th.
I think they're like. I think when they're hitting, I think they're a better side than Chelsea. But I think Chelsea is so good defensively, they're going to take points even when they don't deserve them. And I think Arsenal is probably going to drop points when they do deserve them. I think that'll probably be the difference over the course of the season.
Gal, you were already putting Arsenal above, but are you putting them in the top 4?
I'm probably with Paul. I think 4th and 5th will be a dogfight between Chelsea. I think that was my pick. I think I had Arsenal 4th in our predictions and Chelsea 5th, but it doesn't really matter after seeing what I've seen. I think the Aubameyang signing actually really helps Chelsea because what they need is someone to be in like goal scoring positions. Havertz just isn't in the right spots naturally to score goals. And I think it costs them times. And I think a player like Aubameyang will foil well with Sterling. And I think if the two of them click together well and play up top with their pace and getting behind people, and Mount eventually starts creating, I think Chelsea scores enough goals. And I'm with Paul. I think Chelsea's defense signing Fofana pulls everything together. You have Fofana and Koulibaly on the outside of a metronome type defender in Thiago Silva. It allows James to play in what is arguably, maybe he might be the best player at what he does in a right wing back role in the whole entire world at going forward. And then on the other side, you have Cucurella and Chilwell. And like, that's the riches Chelsea have. They like take out their record signing and bring in their last record signing, and he gets a goal and an assist in 15 minutes and they win the match. And that's to the point why they bring on players like Chilwell and bring on guys like Mason Mount in the second half, and Arsenal goes to Tomiyasu. And for that, I think Arsenal finishes 5th.
Brings on a broken Tierney.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what Chelsea has going, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how they rotate and manage that. Obviously, they have the Champions League, and I think that's the biggest thing too, like Wednesday to Thursday, especially with the Premier League. Not only, more tired legs playing, but it means a lot more rotation, and once injuries and stuff start coming up, it's going to be a lot trickier for the two that we watch for the match of the week this week. My match of the week was United against Arsenal, and United wins this one 3-1 at home. Not a lot of big shocks this week, guys, but Gally, let's start with you. What was your shocker of the week?
I think the shocking result, as a Liverpool supporter, it could be shocking that, you draw with Everton, but as we talked about during our podcast on Monday night, you expect to drop points in this matchup, even if you're a much better team. So you throw kind of the records out the window. Leeds has looked much better than they performed in that matchup. I think dropping and scoring, conceding 5 was kind of a shocking result for them. It doesn't help when your manager gets sent off. The Terminator was not happy to be questioned, and he made it known. No soup for you, American, as he walked to the showers. He got the Martindale treatment from Hoosiers. I think he basically asked for the ejection and then got it. But I think that was a little shocking for me. Not that they lost. Leeds can lose a match, but the fact that they looked as hapless as they did, because they had a good start to this campaign. So disappointing outcome for Leeds.
How about you, Gally? Bickler.
I can be Gally too. I just will be like a shorter, fatter version of him. I think the big sort of surprise to me was the fact that Villa was able to skate through and pip a point off City. City has dominated possession off everybody. They had 72% possession this match, all the chances, and Villa has not looked. They've been all right defensively, but they've looked pretty vulnerable at times. And I think more so concerning for Villa fans is not only have they looked a little bit defensively vulnerable at times, that they've just been toothless in attack. For them to get a goal in this match versus a side who basically dominates possession, doesn't give you chances, I think that's a huge win for them. And if it weren't for our outstanding referees in this league, to be honest, they would have had 3 points.
Yeah, I went with both those I like. I did go with the Bournemouth away win and Nottingham Forest. And not because it's probably more about the way it happened. We knew Nottingham Forest would struggle for a while. When you sign 85 people, it's going to take time to kind of put the pieces together. But being up 2-0 and against the Bournemouth team who just had a coaching change. So, if the game started where Bournemouth starts with fresh and gets the lead and wins, I guess I would have taken that and be okay, Nottingham Forest is not settled yet. But Forest to take a 2-0 lead at home to halftime and then kind of collapsing against obviously already fragile Bournemouth side was shocking to me. I did not see that comeback happening. Once I saw 2-0, I figured they would put that game away. and they were not able to, which does spell more and more doom for Forest, I think, moving forward, because they're dropping a lot of points that they should win. I mean, that game should have been an easy 3 points that you put in the bag for the rest of the season to fight off relegation and to kind of like choke that lead and give it away to Bournemouth, who you will probably fight against for relegation. I think is key. This could be a game they look back and really regret kind of like letting their guard down. So that was my shocker of the week. Bournemouth coming back from being 2 down to win 3-2 at Nottingham Forest. Well, that's all we have for this week's show. Next week's match of the week is going to be City versus Spurs. It should be a good one to see where Spurs is at and I see how City rebounds from their draw. Neither team, at least City, has not started as well as maybe everybody expected in terms of like the drop points they have, which has kept everybody pretty tight, and it ends up being a number 2 against number 3 in the standings this week, and we will have our live watch along for that one as well. So check out American Scouser TV this weekend during the game. Take care, everybody.